Thank you so much, Jonathan. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah? Are we good? Needs to be a little louder still? Okay. I'm Italian. I'll do my best to use my indoor voice. Good evening, everyone. My name is Nancy Petito, and I am the Executive Director at Civic, Nebraska. It is such a joy to welcome you to tonight's 2025 Strengthening Democracy Awards. Before we begin tonight's program, I'd like to thank this year's sponsors who come from diverse backgrounds in support of our mission. So if you would, join me in a round of applause to show our thanks for making tonight possible. You can find each of our sponsors listed on the vertical blue cards on your tables. If you have a minute tonight, please be sure to thank them directly. This year is an extraordinary one in the life of our state and our nation. We all feel it, and we all know that what we're experiencing is not necessarily normal. The ground seems to shift quickly under our feet. The stories that dominate the headlines can sometimes feel unprecedented. And we are reminded every day that the times we are living in require both clarity and courage. That can feel isolating. It can feel demoralizing. And in our weaker moments, it can feel infuriating. Those emotions have a place, believe me. But what we do with those feelings, that's where the opportunity lies. That's where we decide whether we pull apart or come together. At Civic Nebraska, we are leaning into our values, along with all of us, navigating and seeking to lead this time of distrust and cynicism. For the record, those values are community, learning, optimism, innovation, and power. For us, these aren't just words on a page, they're guideposts. They remind us that we can only do this work by building up one another, by continuing to grow, by keeping hope alive, by trying new approaches, and by standing together to claim our rightful power as citizens. And if those values sound familiar, it's because they are also the traits we celebrate in our honorees each year. I think you'll agree that this year we have 6 remarkable Nebraskans who embody these qualities. Every one of them is a shining example of how our state is made stronger through civic character and civic action. On the topic of action, it's been a busy year for Civic Nebraska. In April, together with a multitude of partners, we rallied Nebraskans to halt a partisan push at the State House that would have dismantled our state's unique electoral vote system and replaced it with a winner-take-all model. Thanks to the action and advocacy of many people in this room, that effort stalled. Yeah. And today, we remain vigilant for further attempts and stand ready to respond again in 2026. In May, alongside our partners at Nebraska Appleseed and a host of local organizations, Lincoln became the first city in the state of Nebraska to ban source of income discrimination. Yep. The Lincoln for Fair Housing Coalition gathered signatures for a municipal ballot initiative that eventually passed with 66% of the vote. That is a landslide, and it's a testament to hard work, collaboration, and a belief in fairness. If you are here tonight representing Lincoln for Fair Housing, would you please stand so we can recognize you? And of course, our youth civic leadership programs continue to build the next generation of leaders for our state. One of those is Nebraska's Kid Governor. Probably the cutest program that we have at Civic Nebraska right now. So Right now, 5th grade classrooms across the state are in the midst of election season. Candidates are making their cases, students are preparing to cast their ballots, and soon the results will be in. In early November, we will know who the 2026 Kid Governor will be, and on January 13th, we'll gather at the state capitol for the inauguration. I know, awe, right? Yes. These programs remind us that democracy is something to practice from the youngest age onward. This past year, we've also spent a lot of time listening. We've listened to you, our friends, our partners, our sponsors, our supporters, to keep our finger on the pulse of the people and to help guide our way forward. Those conversations really matter to us. They ground us, they shape our priorities, and they tell us that Civic Nebraska is not just an organization, it's a community. We believe and we hope you agree that Civic Nebraska is built for this moment. When the challenges of democracy seem too big, we respond by building community. When cynicism takes hold, we respond with realism and optimism. When old strategies falter, we innovate. And when people are told they don't have power, we remind them that they do, and we show them how to use it. Tonight is about recognition and renewal. Recognition of everyday Nebraskans whose work strengthens our civic life, and renewal of our own commitment to building a democracy that includes and uplifts all of us. This is a night for the people, our neighbors, educators, organizers, and young leaders who show us that democracy is not abstract, that it is alive in our communities, in our connections, and in the everyday actions that bind us together. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for being a part of this celebration and for being a part of an ongoing story of democracy in Nebraska. Right now, it's my great pleasure and honor to introduce Nebraska's state poet, Rodgers, who will share tonight's keynote.
Well, good evening. I love that because I've been trying to restart the tradition. Sometimes folks say good evening and then we're like, so thank you very much for engaging in that with me. Now, before you all ask, yes, my father is Johnny Rodgers. Thanks. I didn't do anything, but he is the first Heisman Trophy winner for Nebraska. And people always ask, oh, well, are you as fast as Johnny? You must be quick. And I tell them, no, baby, I'm just a prop plane. He's got the speed, I got the good looks, okay? Don't push me too hard. But seriously, when I became state poet, people started to give it hymnities. They went from, oh, that's Johnny's daughter, to, oh, that's Jules' dad. Look, either way, we were just happy that somebody was still talking about us, and that was the beauty of it. See, my father taught me something about legacy, about how to build it, sustain it, keep a good thing going. So to me, the legacy is also a work of art. Now, they asked me to talk about art in democracy, the importance of arts in democracy. And there is kind of a lingering question that says, why art? Why are we talking about that? So it is my job today that by the end of this keynote, you will have a better understanding of why art in democracy. Now, before I get too deep into things, I want to talk to you about two things first. Just introduce some things. First, you, the crowd. I am a spoken word poet, okay? So very integral to spoken word poetry is crowd participation, feedback, okay? Now, you're already doing very well because you laughed at my jokes, and we love that for me. Thank you very much. But also, when you hear something that you like, there are some things that you can do in a similar fashion that you do when you hear a poem. I think I hear some snapping, and that is indeed it. There are also some things you can do like clapping. If some of you are so moved and you want to say things, you can yell, and I will not be offended at all. I will be totally in support. You know, you could also stand, but we could save that till the end. Now, the second thing I want to talk about is art. What art actually is. Why art? What are we focusing on art in democracy for? What does it mean? Why should you care? So before I get too deep into things, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about art? Please, someone start yelling things. Painting. Okay, what else? Sculptures. Okay, what else? Empathy. Wow, we love that. Okay, what else? Music. Yes. Creativity. So all of these things, absolutely. Yeah, art is also food, is also film, is also poetry, and it can cause you to think, feel, question, change. People usually think of art as something created with imagination and skill, something beautiful that expresses important ideas or feelings. I'll repeat it. Something beautiful that expresses important ideas or feelings, which is important to analysis. So a song, a painting, a poem is all art. And we're less likely to think about that creativity that structures our everyday lives as art. What your favorite teacher did to make you never want to miss her class was a work of art. How your grandmother's hands brought family together over holiday dinners, that was a work of art. How the one friend makes you laugh till you cry every time and all your stress be gone too, that is a work of art. There is art to how we come together. Art is how we are brought together. And the awardees tonight are also artists, exemplary not only because of what they've accomplished, absolutely, not only what they've accomplished, but also because they fooled you into thinking that what they do also isn't a work of art. So then we have to talk about how we connect, serve, and care for one another, and the earth that holds us. That is also art. And that song or that painting or that poem that you hold dear that feeds this infrastructural relational art. For example, you can hear that song, You Won't Break My Soul, that is a song. But a work of art is it to be out partying with your high-achieving friends to go break some glass ceilings on Monday. So when you hear someone talk about how art promotes critical thinking, it's not just a novel or a movie asking you to read between the lines, big and small, forest for the trees. It's not just moving through what is being expressed, but it's how that expression is analyzing something more complex about who we are, about what we do, about why we do what we do. Critical thinking is about recognizing the systems, material and human, that scaffold our identities, our actions, our relationships, our hopes, our dreams, our fears. The legacy of my family, my ancestors, my community makes it possible for me to write and share poetry today. Of the classrooms, the dance floors, the kitchen tables where I've gathered people who have helped shape my mind. The roads and rivers of Nebraska tended by thousands that I may never know, art of the obvious kind draws our attention to, helps us analyze, and it's not so obvious support systems. You know, the aforementioned beautiful things, the things we miss because we take them for granted, or because we're living in a time where things move quickly and where it's easy to be misinformed or disinformed. For example, some call art wasteful, frivolous. But in this state, for every $1 that the government invests in the arts, organizations like Nebraska Arts Council leverage an additional $9 in local match. Now, well, yeah, that's pretty great. This is information according to the last time it was updated, okay? So it could have gotten significantly better from then. So this is a snapshot from then. Imagine right now. Now, that simple statistic is one of the many components making up 27,000 jobs at that time, all right, check with me, and the creative district and $2.7 billion in Nebraska's economy. The economic development, the personal and professional growth, the conversations otherwise not had, and the critical thinking otherwise not thought. And that's just the obvious kind of art. Now, when we are living in a society that encourages us to rush, encourages us to dig deep into our feelings for clickbait, but not deep enough to engage in systemic change, art, by definition, the act of creating to express important ideas or feelings, as analyzing what we tend to overlook, as foundations of critical thinking, that art is critical. Two is the bridge between us and the more subtle kinds of art that structure our everyday lives. And that, surprise, surprise, is where democracy comes in. So let's look into democracy. 1, government by the people, rule of majority. Okay. A form of government in which the people elect representatives to make decisions, policies, laws, etc., according to law. Now, I don't know about you, but it would seem if we were electing people to make serious decisions, we might also want to work on that whole analysis aspect in the arts. Am I right? B, a form of government in which the people vote directly against or in favor of decisions, policies, laws, etc. A form, a concept, an idea, a system that represents the people. And so inherently a representation of their lived experience, their history, of storytelling, of communication, of archiving, recording, and preserving the times. So why art and democracy? Well, after reading those definitions, that's almost like asking why beliefs and action, why ideas and policies, why values and decision making. But let's go a little bit deeper. Let's make the intangible tangible. I Googled it. Why does art matter? Of course, I received this very heartfelt answer via Google AI or whatever, putting their little, AI razzle-dazzle on it. So this is what I got from Google AI. I'll read it in my AI voice. Here we go. It matters because it enriches our lives, fosters connection, and serves as powerful means of expression and communication. Now, before I get too many eye rolls, I know fostering connection can get a little touchy-feely. What does that mean? Why is somehow holding hands and singing Kumbaya now the way to the promised land? But art creates connections and commerce at the exact same time and provides fulfillment. And fulfillment is frou-frou until you can't get out of bed in the morning, until your husband or your wife or your partner cannot for the life of them figure out how to be a partner anymore. Fulfillment never matters until it matters, until you don't have any left. And some of us know that pain, feel that pain, and some of us ignore that pain, say things like, this is a waste of our money. There is no point in spending our hard-earned tax dollars on theaters. Meanwhile, we hear of how directors are teaching kids to utilize their voices, becoming equipped with the courage to speak up. There is no point in the community concert that got somebody out of the house feeling at least halfway like themselves for the first time in weeks. There is no point. To the person who is the joy and is always the joy because they are determined to keep their joy in a hard time, it never matters until it matters. You remember when the pandemic happened and people started baking enough bread to give Jesus competition? Again, it never matters until it matters. But here's a different example. Have you ever gone into a neighborhood and thought, wow, boring? You can feel it on the streets. Seemingly intangible, but you know what it feels like when you go somewhere and there's just not much soul. Raise your hand if you've ever been to New York City. Keep your hand up if you've ever been to the financial district. All right. Would you rather spend your money in the financial district or a theater on Broadway? Why? Because arts and culture bring entertainment, bring emotional engagement, which, for the money minds, brings investment. The investment is coming because of that fulfillment. You know, the fulfillment that doesn't matter until you need it. What I'm saying is, if you're asking why art, choose your own adventure. You can choose fulfillment. You can choose expression, critical thinking, entertainment, investment, economics. You can also think civic engagement. And since we're talking about democracy, frankly, we have to be honest about it disappearing right in front of our eyes. Now, I'm scared to say this in public and on stage, and frankly, I should be, because I am state poet of Nebraska. I am not state poet of Nebraska friends and relatives, okay? I am state poet of Nebraska. All Nebraskans. Which is to say, all people, no matter what side of the political spectrum they fall on. It is my job and responsibility to craft messages that connect with audiences of all kinds, colors, and creeds, even though right now that level of inclusion is not being reciprocated. And while I am afraid to say that, I figure I ought to. Now, when I learned of the cuts the administration proposed to our field, I recognize that there are times when representatives will not deploy such diplomacy. It is not seen as duty, but as weakness. I wanted to tell you about the budget cuts that affected the humanities, the Nebraska Arts Council. So I did my research. I decided I would read the proposed 2026 budget from the White House firsthand, which suggests that perhaps even diplomacy could be considered a radical leftist ideology. I read beyond the art. I read the medical research programs being cut. I read the space exploration programs being cut, international aid, educational programming, and quick note on educational programming. Here is where the most evidence was given for the supposedly blatant, radical leftist ideologies these institutions were pushing. Examples from grant applications they noted: requiring practitioners to take personal and institutional responsibility for systemic inequities and critically reassess their own practices, receiving professional development workshops and equity training on topics such as building cultural competence, dismantling racial bias, and centering equity in the classroom, acknowledging and responding to systemic forms of oppression and inequity, including racism, ableism, gender-based discrimination, homophobia, providing spaces for critical reflection to help educators confront biases and have transformative conversations about equity. Again, this is what was wrong with grant applications submitted by educational institutions. It was wrong to say you wanted to teach folks not to be racist. Wrong to intend to reduce the presence of ableism, of ageism, and so forth. Wrong to be rooted in themes of democracy or adequate representation of all wrong, to be paying attention to think critically about the human infrastructure that supports our living and our working. Wrong to rethink what has been missed, sometimes deliberately, for decades or centuries for our collective well-being. Wrong to redo the not-so-obvious art of how we relate to each other, how we become ethically responsible members of a civil society. That was the wrong way. At this very point in history, art is important because any form of expression is vital in times of silencing and total erasure. Relationships are vital in times when people and their support systems are being erased. Organizations are being erased. Projects and businesses are being erased. The material and human infrastructure that we need collectively for the survival of our planet is being erased. And any effort toward visibility at all is essential to the work of survival and the continuation of a society that sees you, that chooses to see you and call you a whole human being, that calls itself a democracy. When I finally got down to the part of the report that mentioned the humanities, it was lumped together with a bunch of other groups, like some miscellaneous pile of stuff, including 100 Years of African American History Commission, Corporation for Public Broadcasting, Institute of Museum and Library Science, National Endowment for the Arts, National Endowment for the Humanities. And here, I read how these small eliminations affected Nebraska communities. Federal cuts making their way through local theaters, after-school programs and festivals, all the way down to small-town museums and galleries. I read how the cuts for the North Platte Telegraph was more than a loss of money. It was a loss of programs that encouraged kids to rehearse their lines after school to learn teamwork and confidence that they will carry for life. It was deeper than grants. It was the sense of meeting for volunteers, offering up their Saturday mornings to paint, to sew costumes, to run sound proud, to keep something bigger than themselves going for their town. When funding dries up, it is not just a line item that disappears. It is not just art that disappears. It is people. I think about the towns that I've driven through, traveling heavily since I became state poet earlier this year. The Scottsbluff Theater, the Alliance Gallery, the Western Nebraskan Arts Center, murals that brighten grained elevators, poetry and coffee shops, incredible meals on plates, libraries with photography as history. When we say art, sometimes people think hobbies, and sometimes it is hobbies. And sometimes that is still as essential, still as life-saving. For example, during my traveling art and poetry series called Homegrown, I visited Broken Bow, Nebraska, in Custer County, where a woman named Muriel showed up, a world-class sculptor, 84 years old, doesn't do technology. She says it's too late for her. Go ahead and send her a letter or a bird. I asked her what art meant in her life, and she said, and I directly quote, "If I didn't have this, I'd probably just be sitting around at home waiting to die." The creativity that keeps our communities alive does not happen by accident. This is intentional work. It happens because someone believes that it is worth investing in the imagination, worth investing in forms of communication that go beyond language to remind us of what we value, to remind us of what is worthwhile. Investing in forms that actually represent our hopes and our dreams, that support not just our survival, but our collective flourishing. That is why art is essential to democracy and is essential in this moment in time. We are not just losing events and art supplies. We are losing spaces that bring us together with our neighbors, spaces where we hold better connections with each other, spaces where we learn new ways to communicate, to pay attention, to take care, and that is essential to democracy. And if you start to zoom out just a little further, you start to see the bigger picture. Again, that information could use an update. However, the Nebraska Arts Council, which channels those federal dollars statewide, estimated the arts and culture contribute more than $2.7 billion annually to our state's economy. So that means when someone says cut the arts, it has the equivalent effect of cutting our classrooms, cutting our commerce, and cutting our creativity. And maybe they don't know it. It's hard to imagine that someone could not know the magnitude of what they're saying when they say cut the arts, but perhaps they do not. These sentiments sometimes come from folks that feel equity, fairness, or justice in the way people are treated is radical in the worst way. When you understand even an inkling of American history, you know the usual for certain human beings often meant horrendous things. Cue the 1800s, for example. Cue the 1960s, for example. Cue right now in Chicago or in DC or the south side of Omaha, right now. We are in a period where democracy is being treated like an inconvenience by condoning and normalizing and calling back into practice inequity, calling back into practice exclusion. And that simply is not democracy. So if all over our great state, these programs that are being cut are teaching Nebraskans to be more creative, intelligent thinkers, then one must admit that when they say cut the arts, in fact, it has an equivalent effect of cutting our classrooms, cutting our commerce, and cutting our creativity. These programs do not just teach art, they teach how to think, how to connect, how to communicate, and how to build community. And again, when you take that away, you don't just lose paintings and plays, you lose people. Recently, I've been seeing this quote, art is not communication, art is dialogue. It's back and forth, it's exploration and expansion, and that is why art is essential to democracy and to life. Because those of us who use it are using forms of communication to generate dialogue and expansion, are thinking critically about expressing it outward, are fulfilling our lives and becoming happier, more fulfilled people. And doesn't that simply just help the world go round in addition to the $2.7 billion? When folks ask why art, ask them why not. Ask them where their happiness comes from. Ask them what they do for entertainment. Ask them where they met the love of their lives. Ask them where their kids grew up, what they do in school, what brought them closer. Ask them about the after-school programs, the expos, the installations, the perspective-shifting conversations that wouldn't have happened if it weren't for. Ask them about life. And for anyone still thinking, sure, it sounds nice, babe, but I don't want my tax dollars going to your frou-frou poetry slam, okay? Let me just say this plain. Art is not charity, it is infrastructure. Just like roads and bridges, it moves people. Sometimes not to new places, but to new ways of seeing and thinking. Every dollar that comes through the Nebraska Arts Council is leveraged 9 times over. That's not theory. That's what happens when someone buys a ticket, when someone goes out to dinner, stays the night, pays the sales tax, remembers the town that gave them a good time. That's how we keep small towns and big towns alive alike. That's fiscal responsibility, putting money where it circulates, not where it stagnates. And for the people who care about family and faith and the next generation, so do I. Art is how we pass down values, how we've done so for centuries. When a kid writes a poem about her grandfather's farm, when a veteran tells his story on stage, when a church choir sings at a town festival, that is not political. That's cultural preservation. That's legacy work. And legacy is conservative in the best sense of the word. Legacy is us preserving what's worth keeping and taking good care of what's been handed down. My father taught me that, and so do the artists in this town and all the towns that I visit. It's not about left or right, it's about making sure there's still something left worth loving. So, if you're someone who says you care about community, accountability, and hard work, then you already care about art whether you admit it or not. Because art teaches those very things. It teaches practice. It teaches patience and perseverance. It teaches how to disagree without destroying one another. That's democracy's muscle memory. And if we stop exercising it, we lose our strength as people. So yes, art is beautiful, but it's also practical. It's profitable. It's patriotic. And at the end of the day, supporting it isn't about being liberal or conservative. It's about being invested in the people of a country we say we love.
Wow, I think I need to towel off. Does anyone have a fire extinguisher? Thank you, Jewel, for those inspiring words. I make light, but those are very good. Thank you very much. Jewel's not done, by the way. She's going to be joining me here on the stage in just a minute. In just a minute. You're going to get more Jewel. Nobody wants more Steve. We want more Jewel. For the record, my name is Steve Smith, and I'm honored to be tonight's MC. Each year, oh, thank you. Whoever you, I think my fan is here. Each year at Strengthening Democracy Awards, we recognize everyday Nebraskans whose work makes our communities stronger, more resilient, and more connected. Traditionally, our honorees receive the Strengthening Democracy Award trophy as a symbol of that recognition. And there they are, those pretty glass trophies right there. But this year we're adding something new. We've asked our new state poet, Jewel, to create an original poem for each of our 6 winners in the category in which they were nominated. Tonight, when an honoree comes forward, they will not only receive their award, but also hear words written especially for the spirit of that category in which they represent this year. Words that reflect their unique contributions to our democratic life. So tonight, through poetry and through the presence of these remarkable Nebraskans, we're celebrating not only what our democracy is, but what it can be. So here's how the next portion of our evening will flow. For each award, Jewel will first perform a short poem written for each category. Then I'll step forward and introduce the award and ask the honoree to join me on stage. We'll present the awards, hear a few words from them, and then we'll transition to the next honoree. Does that sound like a plan, friends? All right. With that, let's begin. Jewel, the floor is yours once more. I hope you got a chance to get some water, a breather. All right.
Well, I took some time to try to do something different. So this has a bit of some nature influences. I'm trying to get better at nature poetry, so when I go across the state, we've got something going on. Let's get started. Cottonwood leaves wrestle the loss of frost and the cusp of spring. We begin again and bear witness. The palms of our hands hold saplings, ready to lay language in the soil as communion. The roots become the greatest form of communication, bickering beneath the soil about survival and seed, begging us to follow suit. Some roots will never serenade a new life into eons of telling, but those successful in song will learn to make rhythm of burial grounds. A drumline of beatings hosting language from roots still learning to reach deep beneath the neighbor's sidewalk, cradling playgrounds, bus stops, graves, and gardens, right-of-ways, now rites of passage. Roots will forego the praise of a lone tree to sow seeds carried by wild jaws and well-traveled winds, making room for life. See, this one planting can become dozens, turn hundreds, turn roots the kids study when the time has come to remind us of survival. Some small, wondering hands will point to that little sapling wide-eyed and full of wonder, knowing exactly what it means to make home.
Thank you, Jewel. Thank you so much. If that's any indication of how the rest of the poems are going to go, we are in for quite a treat. Our first honoree this year is someone who truly lives up to the title of Community Builder. Laura Gamboa Urego of Grand Island. Laura has a remarkable gift. She brings people together who might not always otherwise find common ground. Through her work with efforts like the Welcoming Initiative and the 4th Street Business Improvement District in her community, Laura has helped create spaces where nonprofits, where local institutions, where longtime residents and immigrant communities can come together. They can share ideas and build solutions side by side. That kind of work takes vision, but it also takes other things. It takes patience, persistence, and a deep, deep belief in the power of human connection. Laura knows that a healthy community isn't built overnight, and it certainly isn't built by one person acting alone. It grows from countless conversations, from small acts of kindness and courage, and from the belief that everyone, no matter where they come from, how long they've lived here, or what language they speak, has a stake in our shared future. In Grand Island, Laura has made that belief real. She has turned vision into practice, ensuring that neighbors not only know one another, but also work with one another, trust one another, and celebrate one another. That is the foundation of civic life. It's no exaggeration to say that the bridges Laura has built will stand long after any single project that she has developed or worked with or program that she's done ends. She has woven bonds of trust that will continue to sustain Grand Island for years to come. And that is the kind of legacy a true community builder leaves behind. Please join me in congratulating our 2025 community builder, Laura Gamboa Orego.
So I'm a little nervous. My voice will tremble, but it's okay. This is a very crazy and special moment for me. The last couple weeks, I've had a hard time coming and realizing that I was getting awarded for this work. I have been doing this with my friends and community members, and it's work that we did and activities we did, not because it was our job, but because it was the right thing to do for each other and our community. I want to emphasize the word we because I didn't do any of this alone. I did this with the people, I did this with the support of my friends and the very people who nominated me. This award is because of them and is for them. Community is what makes us strong, and it's also what strengthened me to do this work. I want to thank Danielle and Eric and Chris for their support and for nominating me. I'm glad we get to do this together. I also want to thank my siblings, Hira and Anna, and my partner Richie for putting up with me all these years, even when I'm cranky, and always being there for me when I needed the most. Lastly, I want to recognize the people who got me where I am today, my grandma, who sacrificed so much for my family to get here. She will always be with me. And my two favorite people, my parents. My parents decided to bring our family to the United States for our future and for our safety 23 years ago. They left everything they knew behind in a country, in our country, and start here in the United States from ground zero. They made a tough decision that many families around the world make and are still making today. If it wasn't for them making that decision, I would not be here. So this award, being here right now, is because of them and who they taught me to be.
Next, we had to think about the water, the kind of life that water allows to take root. There are miracles in the water, ready to be made into ordinary memories. Dancing made hurried breathing, made home-cooked meal, after even the smallest battle made home. There is a miracle waiting to nourish you back. The water does not beat your heart, but its absence will petrify your entire living when they say, water is life. Perhaps it is the reflection that sustains you. How the water does not bid your beating, but learns your heart's echo and feeds back. Takes the shape of some brave vessel, the color of this breathing earth we traverse, a new tomorrow knowing every civilization has once tucked itself beside a stream, built its bones around the water's song. Even the cattle wander no more than a mile from its sultry shimmer. Even the prairie birds nest only where it sings. Funny how this became natural law. First, find the water, then build a life. Where the water gathers, the people do. Where it runs dry, we dry up alongside. Ideas like seeds wait patiently beneath the surface until the water comes and names them possible. Some of us, the ones we call catalysts, move like water, carving new routes through bedrock and bureaucracy, giving voice to the root before we ever see the bloom. You ebb and flow and feed, churn growth in your reaching. Ideas are brave in your presence, like saplings praying toward the sun. A convening becomes a current, a handshake, a harbor, and all at once we are flooded with beginnings, with you, the source, making room for us all.
Our next honoree is someone whose vision and energy have lit a spark that continues to grow across Omaha and beyond. Sorry, Jewel, I'm moving this back up. Nicolas Jaramillo is the recipient of our 2025 Civic Catalyst Award. Yeah, let's hear it. Let's hear it. This title fits Nicolas perfectly, because he is a catalyst in the truest sense. He doesn't just take part in existing institutions, although that would be enough. He creates new ones. He doesn't wait for opportunities to appear. He builds them. Over the years, Nicolas has been a driving force behind efforts like the Si Se Puede Network and the Latino Golf Association. Both are rooted in amplifying Latino voices, strengthening community, and ensuring that new generations see themselves reflected in leadership. These are not small endeavors. These are not easy things. They require imagination, determination, and the ability to bring people together around a shared vision. Nicolas has shown time and time again that he has all three. But he doesn't stop there. Not at inspiration. He moves people into action too. He has the rare ability to connect communities that may feel overlooked and to remind us, all of us, that democracy is healthiest when everyone has a seat at the table. What Nicolas has built is grounded in trust and inclusion and a deep commitment to possibility. We honor Nicolas tonight not only for his many accomplishments, but also for his example that each of us can make a lasting difference when we act with creativity and with courage. Please join me in celebrating our 2025 Civic Catalyst, Nicolas Jaramillo.
Good evening, everyone. Well, first and foremost, I want to start off by thanking God, first and foremost, for giving me the life and health to be here today and for putting all the amazing people that have gotten me to where I am today. And it's truly an honor that I'm humbled to receive the Civic Catalyst Award. And thank you to Civic Nebraska for recognizing all the work and believing in the work that we do together. You know, when I first started the Si Se Puede Network and the Latino Golf Association, it wasn't about awards, but it was about creating opportunity. You know, I wanted to build spaces where people felt connected, seen, and inspired to dream just a little bit bigger. Whether it's through our LGA nights, our golf tournaments, or any other community event that we've done, my mission has always been to uplift our community and open doors for others. To me, being just a civic catalyst means believing that our ideas can turn into action and that each of us have the power to shape the community we want to live in. It's about showing up when it's hard and doing your part and leaving your city better than when you found it. And I shared this recognition with everybody that supported me along the way. When I first got to Omaha, I had a really good vision on what I wanted to do. I told one person that I wanted to be the king of Omaha. And, and you know, I went to him just to kind of seek support, and he really believed in me and all the vision that has inspired me. He's connected me to a lot of people, and he's been one of my best mentors, and I'm proud to call him a true friend, Armando Salgado. So I gotta give flowers where flowers are due, so thank you, Armando, for I wouldn't be here without you. Yeah, round of applause for Armando first. Also to my amazing team, Nadeli Cortez and Francisco Sandoval. When we first inspired the Si Se Puede, it was just to showcase Latino businesses within our community and just show there's a lot of entrepreneurship within our community, inspire, and they believed in all my visions, and we made it reality. Same for the Latino Golf Association, which we did a tournament within 30 days, and it was to fundraise for money for families affected by immigration. So we did the tournament on June 30th, and the race happened on June 10th. So all the funds went to that. And I also want to give thanks to my family that came all the way from Lexington, 3-hour drive. So thank you very much. And I want to give a special shout out to my mom. Ma, tú eres mi mejor amiga. Yeah, I'm just gonna skip that. I'm not gonna be able to. But thank you so much. It's an honor, and thank you, Civic Nebraska, for all the work that you do to strengthen our community. And I just want to leave everybody with one mission: that we are one community. We are Somos One. We're not black, whites, browns, but we are Nebraska. We are one big community, and I just want us to be united. So, I mean, yeah, round of applause to all of you guys, but thank you so much for this award.
This is in honor of champions of learning, which I liken to the idea of illumination or shining a light. Follow the North Star. Never enough to cover the sky, but just enough to remind us the day is near. When pressed against the soil, we bury what little hope remains before raising lighthouses of our bodies. Shorelines crash our borders, and we pray to become the wild dreams beneath us, to bloom blessings of ailing soil, as quiet as redemption, the sweetest healing we've ever known. These buoys of survival become our bodies, lighting the way nestled in this rocky plain, and you reflect on us, like the moon to the sea, like stars on a clear night. Even on cloudy days, you peek through, showing us what it means to find each other in darkness. Feasting on remnants, tiny moon rocks, and our mouths curved upward toward the sky, we smile, because you show us the light is still a worthy guide. We find a way home through you, begin the night sky with you. When the world forgets, you remind them to turn doubt into direction and darkness into the way home.
I feel like I should tag Jewel as we walk by, kind of wrestling. Our next honoree shows us that learning is not confined just to textbooks or classrooms. It's something we practice, it's something we share, it's something we pass along in every corner of our lives. Astrid Munn of Omaha. Astrid embodies that spirit. Did I get up here too early? You're fine. Come on up. Come on up. Come on up. I want you to hear this. Come on. Come up here. I'm just going to let Astrid read it. She embodies that spirit. And that's why she's this year's champion of learning. Astrid wears many hats. She's an immigration attorney. She's a law professor. She's a Civic Saturday fellow. And even, you'll love this, she's a stand-up comedian. And while those titles may seem to come from very different worlds, what unites them is her constant drive to learn and to teach. Whether she's advocating in a courtroom, guiding students in a Nebraska U Law College class, convening neighbors in civic reflection, or taking the stage with humor. That wasn't planned, I swear. Astrid shows us that knowledge and insight comes in many forms. Many forms. She models that learning is not just about acquiring facts, but about deepening empathy, expanding understanding, and strengthening connection. Her students, her clients, and her audiences come away informed, of course, but more importantly, they come away inspired to think differently, to see differently, and to act differently. When we learn, we grow. When we grow, we build bridges. And when we build bridges, we create stronger, more resilient communities. Astrid has been doing exactly that across Omaha and beyond, helping us all imagine what's possible when curiosity and courage come together. Please join me in congratulating our 2025 Champion of Learning, my friend, Astrid Mudd.
Oh my gosh. It's funny, as a lawyer, I'm kind of penned in by the stuffiness of my, occupation, and I've been trying to, be edgy and rebel. I write about my drug and sexual exploits of my youth. I go on stage and do stand-up with my shirt off. Like right now, I'm looking for a mannequin butt for, it's for a voter rights thing I want to do. So, and you guys give me an award for it, But seriously, thank you for the Strengthening Democracy Award. I'm deeply honored. Kyle said I had to keep it nonpartisan, so I'll say this. The world is hella gray. It's not black and white. It is messy. So not all cops are bad. And sometimes the Department of Homeland Security, AKA ICE, they uncover trafficking like they did last week in Omaha. And sometimes the supposed bastions of our community, they're the ones exploiting their fellow human beings. But you're not gonna see that nuance from the comfort of your screens. You see it when you go out and you engage and when you talk to people unlike yourself. So I want all of you this weekend to go to the Nasty Tavern in your neighborhood, and I want you to try to have a beer with someone completely different from you. I want you to give blood, even if it scares you. Okay, maybe that's too intense. Okay, go to your public library and just sit in it for an hour. Because when we show up, I swear to God, did we both use ChatGPT to write this? When we show up, we learn, and when we learn, we can lead. And when we lead, we strengthen democracy. Dang it, Steve. Or are we just to say hi? Not as an abstract idea, but as a living, breathing thing that depends on all of us. But we have to be willing to step outside of ourselves, be willing to listen, and stay curious. Oh my God, Steve. So thank you so much.
in honor of young civic leaders. Gray hairs and plushy eyes on their last day discover courage could have paved the way. They say, I wish, oh, I wish. New faces and bright eyes on their hardest nights learn courage could have won their fight. They say, I wish, oh, I wish. And still, you listen to the rumble in your belly, the trembling of your wildest dreams. Begin honoring the curiosity begging you to be reborn, to call yourself a new name. Love clamors in your palms. Courage asks for your faith, and you answer, I do. I do. So you've learned the fatal flaw of thinking too long about how, what if, fumbles forward imperfectly, so you follow intuition, the greatest knowing given, hidden in the quickened breath or a grand surge of feeling. You see what you believe and you follow it. And with this one precious life, you must. For what fun is what if at the expense of what is? What good is if only I had, when I'm so glad I did, is calling your name.
Our next honoree shows us that leadership doesn't wait for a certain age or title, right? It begins the moment you decide to stand up for something important: inclusion, community, compassion. That's why we're so proud to recognize Ella Fundus tonight. Ella's journey started early, and it has never slowed down. Through her years of involvement with the Penguin Project at the Lincoln Community Playhouse, she has worked tirelessly to create spaces where young people of all abilities can shine together. She has been a champion for inclusion, ensuring that everyone feels seen and valued, not just on stage, but in life as well. At Nebraska Wesleyan University and across her broader community, Ella has carried that same spirit of advocacy forward. She has spoken up for those whose voices are too often left out. She has built initiatives that bring people together, and she has led by example with heart, humility, and conviction. What makes Ella's story so powerful is not just her accomplishments, but the way she accomplishes them. She leads with empathy. That's how she starts. She inspires with joy. And she reminds us that the future of democracy in Nebraska is in very good hands when young people like her are already shaping it. Please join me in celebrating this year's 2025 Young Leader Award honoree, Ella Fundus.
Good evening. I'm so scared. I'm truly honored to receive this recognition from Civic, Nebraska. It really means so much to me. My journey has been shaped by so many incredible people who have shown me what inclusion, advocacy, and true community look like. I've learned that civic leadership isn't about titles or awards. It's about creating spaces where every person's voice is heard and valued. As I continue my path toward becoming a social worker, I carry with me the belief that accessibility and belonging are essential to justice. I hope to keep building a world where people with disabilities are not only included, but empowered to lead. Thank you to Civic Nebraska for recognizing this work. I want to give a special thanks to Lily Shagru for being my role model, mentor, and friend. You have shown me what a true leader looks like. I also want to thank the Lincoln Community Playhouse for giving me a place and community where I belong since 6th grade. And lastly, I want to thank my family for being my rocks and supporting me through every step of the way. This award reminds me, and I hope it reminds all of us, that real civic leadership starts with empathy, courage, and community. Thank you.
In honor of founders and leaders, and also in honor of making hard times grow you, the sandhills are remnants of an ocean floor, proving disappearance can be transformation. So too the city streets, brick laid on brick, crosswalks painted and repainted, murals serenading walls once silent here, no corner sleeps. Someone is always plotting change under halos of streetlight, making this town a holy ground. Even in endings, there are beginnings. Vacant lots swell with music and moonlight. Abandoned storefronts call neighbors to gather. At 1 a.m., you are still pouring into this city. Organizing sidewalks into sanctuaries. Tough conversations become spring harvest, making of yourself the good word. There is spirit in you. Sprouting past city borders, from prairie to pavement, protest to pulpit, food pantry to front porch, wind carries sand into Golden Bluffs the way chants carry through downtown, rolling hills of glass and steel. A dune becomes a home like a block becomes fragile ground, learning to hold roots, rivers, lives. To study the land or the city is to know that what shifts can still endure, that change itself is the builder. Even after the landslide, the seismic quake, after police lights flicker against windows, community seats become vacant still, the ground teaches us to grow, our chants lift us into flight. This is the work of the founder, to make of our legacies a living landscape, a geography of trust and belonging, contouring this city into an ever-changing forever.
Our next honoree has spent a lifetime weaving together the social fabric of Omaha and beyond. Leo Lewis II. Leo Lewis II is a seasoned community organizer. He's a bridge builder, and he's a leader whose work exemplifies the values at the heart of this award. It's fitting that he is the first recipient well, he's the second recipient. The namesake got the first one last year, if you recall. Sorry, Leo, you're going to come in second. It is fitting that he is the recipient of the 2025 Adam Moorfeld Founders Award. Leo's work has spanned so many disciplines, we don't have time to list them all. It would roll out onto and hit the back wall over there. But I'll give you the highlights. Gang intervention, urban farming, entrepreneurship, public speaking, board service. At first glance, those things might seem like very different callings, but you look closer and a clear through line emerges. In every role, Leo creates spaces where people feel seen, heard, and valued. That has been his life's mission, and it has transformed countless lives in this process. As a past board president of the Malcolm X Memorial Foundation, Leo has carried forward the legacy of one of Omaha's greatest sons by fostering civic connection, healing, and empowerment. His leadership resonates deeply with people across lines of race, class, and background. because it's grounded in his lived experience. When Leo speaks, people listen. When he organizes, people act. And when he builds with a vision of lasting impact. The Founders Award is meant to honor those whose work carries forward the spirit in which Civic Nebraska was created. Leo Lewis II is a shining example of that spirit. Steadfast, visionary, and rooted in the belief that democracy is strongest when it reflects and it uplifts everyone. So please join me in honoring the 2025 Adam Morfeld Founders Award recipient, Leo Lewis II.
Thank you. And also, I want to start quickly by thanking my father and mother for making me and keeping me, my bonus mother, Kim, my other bonus mother, Miss Blondie, who's not here, and my church mothers who are not here, who'll be mad at me if I didn't say that. And one of my mentors, Mr. Randy Boyd, who met me at 16 years old, gave me my first job at Taco Bell. So just understand, leaders are at Taco Bell, and Randy builds them. And so Randy caught me at a time in my life where I was 1 foot in the streets and 1 foot out. I wanted to be a good son to my mother, and I also wanted to be a good homeboy to my homies. And Randy was the one who would stay up late nights with me and converse and philosophize on what the world was like in the universe, and then every now and then drop a little nugget on me. Over time, I grew to become an organizer, and I met other great organizers like Shamika Simpson, who's in the room, who is the other person I would consider to be one of the greatest organizers in the city. But I'll just say this, and I'll try to be brief. Individuals like me often don't receive awards like this because we have been systemically targeted for extermination. We not only have survived the adversity, but after much trial and error, we turn our pain into an undying love for our people in pursuit of identity and community. Almost cried on Tuesday night at the My Own Mall premiere when I received a standing ovation at the announcement of this award, because I lived to see the appreciation comparable to the love that I have for people like me and their families. I feared dying without completing the work that the higher power assigned to me. Anyone who ever walked in love for their people feared at some point they would die early, because their love was a threat to those who wished to dehumanize their people and reduce them to usable objects to be discarded when no longer valued for what they can produce. So to survive daily is not only a blessing, but a confirmation that the work must continue. And people like me who continue to do the work, we sacrifice ourselves for the people collectively. And I thank you all who are those people. And I thank you for this award.
of them had that moment. Actually, just once more. In honor of Nebraska's defenders, thinking briefly about the voice. If the caged bird sings, because that is all it knows of freedom, then what do we make of your flight but a birthright of survival and goodwill? If there is a cage, and the only way beyond it is through song, do our calls become a declaration? Each feather a ballot, scattering your proclamations like seeds so the next generation knows the sound of courage and faith carried in the wind. The vote in your throat joins the chorus to break the silence with song, a defiance as subtle and as beautiful as a gust powerful enough to carry seeds for new life or wipe entire lifetimes clean. And isn't that like the bird song? Carrying coordinates for survival or an elegy across the night sky. This time, when hierarchies of hunger are softened by this flock down to their essential human behaviors, perhaps your melody will guide us to the birthplace of a new beginning. Perhaps your voice will call us home, and we will sing, not because the cage demands it, but because the open air belongs to us all.
Final honoree tonight. He embodies the spirit of vigilance, of courage, dedication that democracy demands of all of us. Jason Whitmer of Lincoln. Jason Whitmer of Lincoln is this year's Jan Gradwall Defender of Democracy. And it's easy to see why. Jason has been at the forefront of defending voting rights in our state. He's lent his voice, his time, his expertise to ensure that Nebraskans are not shut out of the democratic process, whether observing elections, testifying at the state capitol, or working directly in communities to make sure every voter can cast a ballot. Jason has shown what it means to stand guard over our most fundamental right as Americans. What set Jason apart is not only his persistence. Well, there's plenty of that. It's the way he approaches the work. He does it with humility. He does it with clarity. And he does it with an unwavering belief that democracy is absolutely, positively worth defending. In a time when access to the ballot is far too often taken for granted, Jason reminds us that rights not protected can quickly become rights lost. The Jan Gradwell Defender of Democracy Award is named for a trailblazer in the Nebraska judiciary. It honors those who show up. It honors who stand firm. It honors those who remind us that vigilance is the price of liberty. Jason Whitmer has been all of that and more. His dedication strengthens not only the communities he directly serves, but also the very foundation of our shared democratic life. Please join me in celebrating our 2025 Defender of Democracy, Jason Whitmer.
Leo, before we ever spoke, you was a hero of mine. Make me wish I could say poetry. My art form was, came in the dark space of writing. I did write this, so I wouldn't go off track, which I'm kind of doing. some reason, this story that I wrote when I was like 20, this is over like 25 years ago, came to me while I was sitting here, and I was thinking about this story about this man who I read a ton about, grew up hearing about, lost faith in, etc. But then I had this creative idea that I thought was creative, and everybody else where I was at, which was the Gladiator School, thought it was crazy. But it was about this man who was a child genius who knew the scripture front and back. And him and his friend, Judas, this is my story I wrote, so don't get upset with me. Judas came up with this plan in this hurt world that they could plant people to heal, that they could fulfill prophecies, that they could start getting money out of people, which they started to do. And in this quest he was doing, he started seeing the community's pain and hurt and started believing in what he was doing for the good. But when he died, because the system could not tolerate it, he didn't die for the, in my story, he didn't die for the sins of everybody. He was saved by then, by the faith of the community. And absence the genius part, 15 years or so later, there's this community of lost causes to the rest of the world who are investing in one of the wildest young people they've met, notoriously so. Sometimes we joke about it because it seems so unbelievable that by the time I'm standing there and the place is on fire in Tecumseh, and men are coming up to me who were my enemies, knowing that when this is over, they're probably going to send us to other states. But showing the love that we found in this brotherhood. And somehow, months later, I'm in work release, back into the community. And months after that, I'm back into the community fully. And so my quest was just to be part of the community like I had found. And so that's what I did. But it's not enough for me to do something. As was spoken, it's always, always about community, which is what I see here. I could give this award to any one of you and know you earned it 100 times over. That's why I accept this award, because it's not that I did something great. It's something great you did it, and you involved me. You welcomed me into your community. Ubuntu. I am because we are. Thank you.
Hey, we told you we'd get you out of here at 8. All right. Before we close tonight, let's have one more round of applause for our honorees, shall we? And let's thank the artists once again who brought this evening into life in 3 dimensions and full color and all the other great things. Let's hear it for the artists. Before we part ways, this is the necessary part of the evening. I'd like to share briefly what sustains this work. On the back cover of your program, you'll see a series of QR codes. Each connects you to a way to engage with Civic Nebraska, volunteering, learning more about our programs, and joining our communications network, what have you. We hope you will explore them all in the hours, days to come. Now, if you'll please indulge me, please, if you could turn your attention to the screen, this is the QR code to rule them all. It's your chance to have your support tonight matched dollar for dollar. Thanks to the generosity of our supporters, we can match new donations tonight of up to $5,000 and an additional $5,000 from returning donors. And yes, if you have already donated this earlier this evening, your gift already counts towards this match. You can donate again. I mean, I'm not going to say no. Friends, democracy building work faces unprecedented challenges here in Nebraska, across the country, and around the world. And while our motivation and dedication is strong, this work does come at a cost. That's why your support makes a real difference. A $50 gift provides lunch for a class of Nebraska high school students participating in Capital Experience Days with our own Audrey Nance. A $100 gift recruits and trains and deploys nonpartisan election protectors on Election Day with our man Mike Forsyth and the voting rights team. A $250 contribution lets us expand our new apiary civic action program led by Chris Morton and the voting rights team. That connects. The apiary is going to connect and support advocates statewide, and if you know somebody who nominate them. The QR code's in there for more information in your program. No gift is too small, and it's worth underlining here, no gift is too big either. Every dollar fuels the work of building a stronger, more resilient democracy for all of us. Thank you in advance for your generosity. And on behalf of everyone at Civic Nebraska, thank you for your presence and your participation and your partnership tonight. I want to make one quick announcement about the art that's going on next door. The sculptor has finished his sculpture. If you'd like to leave and take a look at that before you go, please feel free. It's done and ready, and it's ready for its close-up, right? All right. So please stay a while and enjoy each other's company and keep the conversation going.